What's up, everyone? This is part 2 of the update 4.10 notes discussion where I talk about the balance adjustments to specific variants. I decided to do this in a separate video just to make it look more organized. So let's just get to it, okay? These are all buffs. Apparently no nerfs. No nerfs. To the ones in the picture at least. Fuqua got a huge nerf. Okay? Lobs of Love is no longer unblockable at close range. This is a huge gameplay nerf to Fuqua. Alright, but let's focus on the positives. Let's talk about the buffs. Let's start with Decrypted Eliza. So these are the bronzes, okay? Let's start with the bronzes. Eliza Decrypted. Dark type bronze Eliza variant. To those who don't remember who she is. Alright? So her old signature ability, the first part, inflicts a 25, 35, and 50% bonus damage against an opponent with active buffs, depending on the level. So at max level, it's 50%. Okay? So now it's been changed to inflict 15, 20, or 25% bonus damage for each of the opponent's living teammates. Huh. This looks more like a side grade than an upgrade for now. So let's look at SA2. The second part of her signature ability, the old one, was, okay, inflict 15, 20, or 25% bonus damage for each of the opponent's living teammates. Oh, so it was transferred. Her SA2 was transferred to her SA1. And transfer one enemy buff to yourself and inflict Wither for 5, 7, or 10 seconds when entering segment. Oh! Hey, look, guys, it's an actual playable bronze Eliza for offense. Wow. Nice. This is a buff. This is 100% a buff. Am I missing something? This is a buff, right? Let me think about that for a sec. I mean, you lose out on peak damage. Okay, peak damage output. But at the same time, it's not... Alright. I think she loses out a bit. Okay, she loses out a bit on peak damage output. Alright. But she is now less reliant on opposing buffs. Right? She's now less reliant on opposing buffs. But yeah, I do admit, she loses a bit of her peak damage output. Yeah, she loses out on the 50%. Honestly, she could have kept the 50% boost. She could have kept it. Her base damages weren't alarming anyway, but I guess they needed to balance her as a bronze. Right? They needed to balance it. They needed to balance her as a bronze. Alright, fine. I'll give it to them. But at least, we have a bronze Eliza variant with, like, proper meter control. So, overall, a good change. Okay, Fuqua. Rough copy. Any teammate below 25, 35, 50% health gains permanent haste when facing an opponent with the same element. So, it's been changed to any teammate gains permanent haste after facing an opponent with the same element for 10, 7, 5 seconds. Okay. So, there's no longer... Oh, God, this is crazy. This is actually good. Ooh. Yo. So there's no more there's no more health. Wow, you could use her on offense now. Okay. SA2. Any teammate below 25, 35, 50% health inflicts permanent slow when facing an opponent of the same character type. Okay, so you just have to be with that character for 5 seconds at max level. This is a huge buff to rough copy as an offensive support. Okay? I think the threshold... Okay, so here's the rationale here. This is why it's such a good buff. This is why this is such a good buff. Alright, so health thresholds are usually for defensive variants, right? Because in the first place, you don't want to be below 50% health if you're on offense anyway. So that kind of makes rough copy more of a defensive support. But like, why the fuck would you use rough copy on defense anyway? Like, rough copy herself as a body, as a defensive body, no matter what her defensive signature ability is a fucking liability. Right? So, they adjusted the signature ability such that she's more tailor-made for as like an offensive support, right? Because if you're gonna be playing against the same element or the same character type, you know, rough copy suddenly becomes an option because permanent haste and inflicting permanent slow is pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful. You can build meter faster. It's definitely like, don't get me wrong, guys, she's still going to be behind like staple supports like Surgeon General, Killjoy, Persona, you know, probably even what's her face? What's another support variant that's like not really that played, you know, stuff like Sunday School to increase debuffs. You know, I think she's still slightly behind, but she's playable now. She's 100% playable as a support right now. That's pretty good. I'm liking these changes so far. Decrypted, honestly, the loss of the peak damage, I'm not sure how much more playable she's become because she kind of lost out a bit on the damage boost from the opponent's buffs, but she's less reliant on opponent's buffs now, so I do think Decrypted was still a slight upgrade. Rough Copy is definitely an upgrade. Okay, let's move on to Scrub Valentine. Her old SA1 says instantly recover 15, 20, or 25% health when tagging out. And now all teammates instantly recover 15% health when Valentine tags out. Okay, I would say this is an intuitive change. And then teammates in reserve regenerate scratch damage in game blockbuster meter. Okay. This is a very significant buff, but this also leaves Scrub in a very awkward spot because she's a support that needs to be out on the field. She has to be on field to work her magic, which still makes Scrub, I do think, a very awkward unit, right? Because using her on offense is kind of weird because you have to like, she has shit damage and she has to be on field, right? It makes Scrub as a variant more intuitive. Definitely a significant buff, but does this change her position in the meta? Would you want to use Scrub? A lot of times the answer is no. It's a time sink. Scrub is a time sink. I don't know what else to say about this, but I mean, it's a great buff, but it doesn't really change her position as far as playability is concerned. I don't think. Alright, so we're done with the bronzes. Let's move to the silvers. Painwheel Blood Drive. Old SA1. 5% chance on hit to inflict bleed on yourself and heavy bleed on the opponent. Okay, so now it's been buffed to 15%. This is good shit. Guys, to give you an idea, in terms of like, when buffing percentages, probability signature abilities, when you buff them, you usually do it in 5s. The fact that like, they just went ahead and like, they just added like an extra 10%, it's fucking huge. Okay. SA2, when using a blockbuster, remove all bleeds and gain enrage. For bleed remove. When using a special move or blockbuster, oh! So this also works on specials. Yo, this is crazy! What? The fact that you can use specials, okay. The fact that you can use specials, oh my god. The fact that you can use specials, you just, huh? The rate at which you can just inflict bleed and just remove the bleed just like that. Oh my god. Does this make Blood Drive better than Freaky Friday? I don't think so. I don't think so. But it's closer than it looks now. This is insane. This is insane. Is Blood Drive's base attack shit? That is a very good question. Let me look that up really quick. What are Blood Drive's base stats? This is actually very important because, like, you know, it's going to dictate the scaling of the enrage. 10,695. Okay, that is her base attack. Dude, Freaky Friday is at 12,000. So I do think Freaky Friday still no. It's still close, dude. It's still fucking close. Because here's the thing. One stack of enrage, Blood Drive with one stack of enrage puts her base attack more or less at par. It gets her base attack to like 12k, which is like at the same as Freaky Friday. That's one stack. So at 2 stacks and above, at 2 stacks and above with a 50% chance. Oh no, is it? How long does the enrage last? The enrage lasts for 10 seconds. God damn. Like, I do think Blood Drive arguably has a higher peak damage output than Freaky. How strong they are in general. We're just talking about pure damage, okay? In terms of pure damage output, I do think Blood Drive has a higher peak now. She has a higher peak and a more consistent one. Really consistent, because they tripled the chances of inflicting the bleed, right? They tripled it. Not only that, they also increased the number of triggers to convert those bleeds into enrage. Because you can now use specials. That's huge. This is a huge buff to Blood Drive. So now I don't know who's better. I do think this puts Blood Drive at least. This puts Blood Drive at least, at the same level as Freaky Friday. Alright, Dead Heat. Yo! Dead Heat! Okay. So SA1, blockbusters and special moves become unblockable while below 15, 20, 25. Okay. Okay. Gain 2 stacks of Enrage for 5 seconds when... I'm disappointed. Okay. I'll talk to you about that later, but let's go to SA2 first. If your opponent has a fully charged blockbuster and you do not, gain 1, 2, 3 blockbuster meter per second. Okay. So at max level, 100% chance for special attacks to be unblockable while benefiting from Enrage. I think Dead Heat is at her best as an offensive variant. Alright, so we're gonna talk about like my general mindset when judging variants, okay? So offensive variants, it gets awkward when offensive variants get their damage boosts by being low in health. It's not necessarily bad per se, but it tends to get awkward because the whole point of offense is to, stay healthy, right? The fact that you have to be below 50% health to get the buff, and it's every 10 seconds. It's 10 seconds, guys. So not only do you have to be below 50%, you also have to wait 10 seconds for the enrage. And then the payoff for the enrage, well, aside from the obvious damage boost you get from enrage, is that your special attacks become unblockable. Here's the thing: the only thing that's making this feel bad is like the fact that it's still via the trigger. The trigger condition is still locked behind getting below a certain amount of health for an offensive variant. They have to stop doing this. I do think. Are there exceptions to this? Are there exceptions to this? This is for offense, okay? We're not talking about defense here. Are there exceptions to this on offense? I can't think of one. I really do think offensive variants should not have like below 50% threshold triggers unless it's like at the level of Shadow Puppet. Shadow Puppet, for example, her trigger is like dying, but she gets 5 stacks of miasma, and like basically she gets offensive priority. That makes sense. That was never the problem. The SA2 was never the problem. The fact that she had to be below 50% health. Okay, so next question. She needs to be below 50% health. Does this make her any scarier on defense? The answer is not really, because you gotta wait 10 seconds. And if you're trying to assemble a defense team such that she gets enraged, wait, that's actually pretty funny. Because there are a lot of catalysts that give enrage. Holy shit, that's actually funny. There are a lot of catalysts that give defenders enrage. So you could just like give her like, I don't know, what's that, Primal Rage, or what is that? There's another one, right? The Rising Heat or something that gives enrage. Then her specials become unblockable. That's pretty funny. That's gonna be occasionally scary. So I guess right now, the way with her signature abilities work, and because fire catalysts give a lot of enrage, there could be a case made now for Dead Heat being better on defense than offense. Okay, we're spending too much time on Dead Heat. Big Band, Troublemaker. Heal for... Okay, nothing changed. He still heals for 10% max health after every 10th combo hit suffered, meaning his SA1 doesn't exist. Okay, SA2, blockbuster damage is increased by 1 to 3% of your current health. When hit while above 50%, reflects... Ooh! Okay, Troublemaker. That's pretty fucking annoying, dude! So he turns into like a Big Band dreadlocks, while above 50% health. He becomes like a discount dreadlocks at above 50% health. That's pretty funny. Yeah. And Troublemaker has a base HP of 65,000. That's pretty decent for a silver. His SA1 still doesn't exist. Because why the fuck would you do more than 10 combo hits on a fucking big band? Why? I mean, the SA2 makes up for it. He's playable now on defense. Is he good? So here's the thing. Here's why damage reflect is kind of funny on big band. It's kind of weird because big band's marquee ability reduces damage, right? Right. So that's his marquee ability. It reduces damage taken, and then that would also reduce the damage reflected. That's kind of why damage reflect and damage reduction. It feels weird together. They really do feel weird together when you think about it, right? Because it reduces. Anyway, yeah, we'll see. He has a high enough base HP. He's a light type, so the light catalysts are gonna be pretty goddamn annoying. So Troublemaker is at least playable now on defense. You know, I could at least say he's a better defender than Epic Sax now. I couldn't even say that before. So there, that's it. Okay, golds. Freedom Fighter. While below 50% health, inflict cripple and armor break. Okay, for 10 seconds. Alright, it's been changed to 10% chance to inflict armor break and gain auto block for 5, 7, 10 seconds each when hit. SA2 no changes. When blocking a blockbuster or special move, disable opponent blockbusters and inflict stun. Okay. Yep, I think Freedom Fighter is most definitely been buffed as a defender, because I mean on its own it's okay, but when you combine this with frost armor, this is pretty. Yikes! He's at least gonna be fairly annoying now, if you give him enough HP and you give him frost armor. Yeah, the auto block. It kind of turns him into like a extremely poor man's model leader, when you think about it. But yeah, I do think Freedom Fighter has been buffed on defense. Okay. Valentine Pyro Technique. Inflict 2 stacks of Wither for 10 seconds when hitting an opponent with a charge attack. Alright, so changed into Blockbuster and special move hits have a 20% chance to inflict. Okay, so basically, nice. So it's no longer locked behind charge attacks. She just needs Blockbuster and special move hits. Okay? And for SA2, gain enrage for 5, 7, 10 seconds when hitting an opponent with a fully depleted Blockbuster. 20% chance on hit to gain enrage for 5, 7, 10 seconds if the opponent is suffering from... Ooh! Pyro! Pyro, what the fuck? Yo! Man! Dude, 20% on hit, like per hit. It doesn't have to be a blockbuster hit. Goodness gracious! And with the number of hits that Valentine can inflict in general per combo, she can easily get to 5 stacks. Oh god, Pyro is suddenly really strong. Strongest Val, I'm not sure about strongest Val, but hardest hitting Val is on the table. Just because of how easy she can get to like 5 stacks. Tress with the high base damages and armor break might make it a bit harder to call. But goddamn, Pyro hits really hard now. This is basically like having a Surgeon General sweeper, except you don't have to fucking wait 2 minutes. You don't have to wait 2.5 minutes. Like, if you guys have seen how hard Surgeon General hits before the fight ends, like in the last minute of the fight, when she gets all those stacks of enrage, you don't have to wait that long anymore. You just fucking use Pyro. By the way, I know people tend to overreact about like what I say. So far, none of these buffs have made any fighter broken, as far as I can tell. Like, none of these so far. They all have been very good buffs. Dead Heat might be on the underwhelming side because the trigger is still health. So it's gonna make her funny defender, I guess. If you're gonna talk about defense, I guess Dead Heat is still a decent buff. But like none of these buffs so far have made anyone OP yet. Okay, Robo Fortune. Oh, Terror Bite. Here we go. Inflict slow and power surge for 5 seconds after every 5 seconds of not suffering a hit. Okay, so let's go to the SA2 first. Head drone hits inflict inverse polarity. Okay. Head drone hits inflict. Okay, so it's been buffed to 15 seconds. Oh. Was the duration of inverse polarity the problem? So this is the first buff that I really feel like does very little for Terabyte's playability. Because the duration of inverse polarity was never the problem. Significant in terms of relative to what it was before. But relative to playability, I'm not sure this does much. I can't complain about the problem without presenting the solution. So I do think the first thing that they should have done is inflict slow and power surge every 3 seconds instead of 5. This at least makes Terabyte, you know, you can slap on a fucking Dark Knot and make her slightly scarier. Especially with the prestige ability if they made it every 3 seconds. And second is like, I don't know, man. I guess I'm just really not a fan of head drone on Robo. I'm just really not a fan, so I might be biased here. Inverse polarity, huh? Wait! The head drone hits now includes blocked hits. Okay, that is significant. So you can reliably hit inverse polarity more now and it's gonna last 15 seconds. Okay, fine. This is significant. It does make her slightly more playable on offense. So the head drone, yeah, it now includes blocked hits. Alright, I'm okay with this. I think Terabyte is still way behind the other gold Robo Fortunes and offensive robos in general. But yeah, alright, fine. She's become at least significantly better at her niche, which is inflicting, you know, inverse polarity. Alright, fine. I'll give him that. Good buff, good buff. Okay, diamonds, finally. Eliza, Mummy Dearest. Using a special move, sacrifices 20% of Eliza's max health to gain 50% blockbuster meter heavy region for 10 seconds. Okay, so now it sacrifices 10%, but it nerfed the meter gained. Okay. Okay, SA1 is a slight buff. SA1 is a slight buff. At least, like, she doesn't fucking kill herself after 5 specials this time around, right? You'd think 10% isn't that big, but they add up, right? If she spams specials. And for the second signature, gain blessing for 10, 25, 30 seconds when entering second mode. So gain blessing and immunity for 10, 25, 30 seconds each when entering segment mode. So the fact that she gets immunity, okay. I do think, I always said, like, the fact that she has dummy thick HP and access to light catalyst already kind of made her, like, at least like a fringe defender. But yeah, she did tend to kill herself too fast with the specials. But now that it's been cut in half, and now she gains immunity along with the blessing, I like this. I like this change. And finally, Misfortune, Windstalker. When near Misfortune's head, opponents lose a 345% blockbuster meter per second. Now it's drain blockbuster meter while the opponent... Okay, so now they gain meter. Oh, damn. Okay. Inflict death mark, disable tagging, doom for... Okay, so nothing changed with her SA2. So there's still the doom and a bunch of debuffs when the opponent's health drops below 35%. So, you know, head users rejoice. Wow. This is pretty... It's a significant buff to Windstalker on offense if you're using... Yeah, if you're very good headless users. So overall, these are very good buffs. These are very, very good buffs. And yeah, again... Goddamn. Fuqua's Lobs of Love. This is a huge nerf to Fuqua, I think. Especially if you were reliant on lobs for offense. But again, this was warranted for sure. This was, yeah, this kind of had to happen when you think about it. Lobs kind of had no business being unblockable at close range. So yeah, Pyro. Okay, which one's my favorite? My favorite buff, personally, is the Pyro buff. I mean, I do think people have been hungry for a while for like for a really decent offensive Valentine that could be used as a sweeper. And, you know, Pyro is suddenly a very good option for that. Sadly, she's locked behind, like, she's still technically an elemental exclusive, right? So not a lot of people are not gonna have access to her, which is pretty sad. But yeah, I do think that one's my favorite buff. Who got the biggest buff? I think aside from Pyro, it's Blood Drive. Blood Drive's buff is pretty huge. The fact that Like, the chance went from 5% to a whopping 15%. And the fact that you could just easily rotate the bleed into enrages with specials, you don't have to build meter first. It makes Blood Drive less of a suicide unit and like a more efficient sweeper. The one thing that my least favorite one I do think is Terabyte. Mostly, again, it could be biased because I'm really not a fan of head drones. I'm really not. And again, I wish they just made it 3 seconds. The inflict slow and power surge every 3 seconds. It doesn't make Terabyte OP at all, but it at least gives her like a defensive out. You know, you can slap a Dark Knot and it's at least fairly scary with a prestige ability. But that's just me. Beowulf, Freedom Fighter, something to watch out for. Freedom Fighter on defense. You might want to watch out for people, for the few people who have like fully invested Freedom Fighters that they're using on defense with Frost Armor. Could get fairly annoying, especially in boss nodes with 100% damage boost. So like a Freedom Fighter with a model leader. Imagine having 2 Frost Armor defenders with access to auto block. Scary stuff. The rest are okay. The rest I don't really have a problem with. Dead Heat felt I kind of wish Dead Heat had more offensive. I kind of wish they buffed her offensive viability instead of her defensive viability by just removing the threshold trigger and changing it to something else, something more offense oriented. But it's pretty funny. I do think Dead Heat is the funniest. Dead Heat got the funniest buff on defense because you can just slap on any catalyst that gives enrage and like suddenly all of her specials become unblockable. That's kind of funny. You just put 5 Shoryukens or something, like something that comes out really fast and deals like a fuck ton of damage, like her Dragon Punch. That would make her pretty funny. That makes her pretty funny. Rough copies, I like a lot. Because she's suddenly a playable offensive support option. Like before this buff, I don't think she was playable in a sense that you kind of had no reason to play her. Now there's kind of a reason. If you're gonna do element matching, character matching, like permanent haste, inflicting permanent slow, it's pretty potent on its own. I would still play Sketchy. I would still rather use Sketchy with an outtake, but at least Rough Copy is all of a sudden a playable bronze support variant. Scrub, the fact that she still has to be in play still makes her awkward. It still makes her awkward, but it's a significant buff. At least all teammates get the healing now. And yeah, that's kind of it. That's it. That's the discussion of the character buffs. Hope you all learned something, and see you soon.